What's up, Broncos country? Welcome into the mailbag edition of Broncos Breakdown Live, which airs live every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Now, before we get into our questions, do me a huge favor. Boom, boom. Smash that thumbs up button. Helps us put more Broncos content on your timeline. And I know that as we get closer and closer to the season, you want to see all of the Broncos content. Let's get into the questions, shall we? UMC Smoke. Do you see Denver being the number one defense this season? Yes, I do. But not in every single statistical category. Does that make sense? I think we're going to have the best pass rush again. I think we're going to have a top 5 secondary. I don't necessarily know how we're going to fare off against the run. I would say top 7. So all of those things kind of combined, and then you divide it by 3, you'd probably be looking at the number one overall defense. I can't think of a single defensive unit in the entirety of the NFL that has as good of defensive personnel at every single unit. Pass rush, secondary, linebacking core, defensive line. All of what the Broncos are rolling out in 2025 is going to be, as a whole in the NFL, the best in the NFL. But I don't necessarily know that every single individual category will be number one. Does that make sense? UMC Smoke, appreciate your question. Thanks for asking it, my friend. Danny, fan favorite of the show. If Moose had an open checkbook, what available free agent would he sign before the season? That is a great question. I'd probably say out of all of the ones that are left, I'd probably end up going with Nick Chubb. And the reason I say that is because when healthy, I mean fully 100% healthy, he's a top 5 back. Now, with the recent injuries that he's had, he probably won't ever be the same player that he once was. But an 80% version of Nick Chubb is still an excellent player. 1,000 yards rushing basically from the start. So if I had to, say, hey, what's it going to take to get you here? That would be the one player, the one big splash signing that I would go with, Nick Chubb. Thank you, Danny, for your question. Appreciate it. Ortiz. Have we really done enough for Bo in the weapons category? That's a loaded question, I think. I appreciate you asking it, but I'm going to take the viewpoint of this. How do we know what we really have with how young this wide receiver core is? There are still a lot of unknowns and unprovenness right now in this Broncos wide receiver room. On the one hand, the only proven commodity is Courtland Sutton. On the other hand, the potential to be great is limitless for players like Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant. So I don't think we can actually answer that question yet because we don't know what kind of player is going to be what. These are still young kids that are still adapting to the speed of the game. Now, if you were to ask me, out of all of those players, who do I think has the best potential to stand out? It's Marvin Mims. Hands down. From what we saw in the back half and the latter half of last year, Marvin Mims has the ability to not only be a great special teams threat, but a player that can stretch the field vertically, that can be a big-time playmaker. So I'm going to leave that question kind of up in the air at this point. It's a little open-ended. But again, Ortiz, appreciate you asking it. Thanks for getting on the show, my friend. Loud noises. Which running back will lead the AFC West by the end of the season in rushing? Optimistically, RJ Harvey. Realistically, and there's a lot of good running backs in this division. Ashton Genty right now for the Raiders, Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris. You got RJ Harvey, Isaiah Pacheco is still really good. Realistically, I'll go with Genty. But I think it's a lot closer than people think. Optimistically, it's RJ Harvey. I think you're going to see a 3-headed monster in the AFC West between Omarion Hampton, RJ Harvey, and Ashton Genty. Those three, the top 3 running backs, in my opinion, that were in the running back, draft class in 2025 are all in the same division. So it's going to be a very, very scary division this year, but it's going to make for some great football, don't you think? Thanks for asking the question. Loud noises, appreciate it. Anthony, also not a Broncos-related question, but how are you taking the transition into being the host, Moose? Wow. This might be the very first question that I've gotten about me. Anthony, I really appreciate this question. I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot of fun, and I have a lot of passion surrounding this team. I'm very excited about covering this team. Change is never easy for a lot of people, and I'd be lying if I said that, a lot of people haven't been used to Matthew Peterson, and I get that. I totally understand a person that has built a rapport with you guys over the last 3 years. So it is going to take some time for people to get used to me. I totally get that. I just hope that, you and I, not only you, Anthony, but Broncos country, as a whole, can grow together and find that, this new era of Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports is great in its own right, not only from what PD has built, but from what I can do taking it forward into the next steps. And my goal is to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the football season. It's a lofty goal, but I'm a, lofty goal kind of guy. So Anthony, again, appreciate you asking the question. That is a very, very considerate thing to ask. Appreciate it, my friend. Before we get into more questions, look at this brand new item that we have on Fanatics. All you got to do, start shopping with our friends at Fanatics today. This hoodie is 40% off, just by going to chatsports.com/Broncos hoodie. But it's not just hoodies, it's jerseys, it's jerseys, hats, gloves, anything that you need to gear up for the 2025 season, you can do with this link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video. Jackson, do you think PS2 can run it back for Defensive Player of the Year? Hell yeah. Listen, tell me a player that's better, objectively, at the cornerback position than Pat Surtain. I'll wait. Spoiler, you can't, because there is nobody. The only player that I think you can argue is up there in terms of production is Derek Stingley. And even he, I don't think, has the skill set to match what Pat Surtain does. He does everything well. There is not a single flaw in his game, in my opinion. We are watching a Hall of Fame player develop before our very eyes, and I love seeing him play every single week. So absolutely he can run it back. Now, the one thing you have to ask yourself is, is he going to stay healthy throughout the entirety of his career? And that's a question mark for every single player in the NFL, not just Pat Surtain. But next year, fully healthy, hell yeah, for sure. I'm just existing. Do you think RJ Harvey will split reps or get a full start by midseason? By midseason, he'll be getting the full start. The first couple of weeks, I think he splits reps, and here's why. To dip your toe into the NFL waters is something that I believe is severely underrated. You want to get a feel for how fast the game is played and how athletic defensive players are. Just like any quarterback. Do you remember last year when Bo made his start? You don't give him the full scope of the playbook week one. You call a specific set of plays and you say, here's what it's going to look like. Here's what the speed's going to feel like. Stay on script, and as you progress, we're going to add more and more to your plate. So I think what you're going to see is a running back by committee room the first 2 weeks. You're going to see Sean Payton try to divvy up the workload as evenly as possible. That doesn't mean that Harvey won't be involved in the game plan. He absolutely will. But I think by week 3 or week 4, you're really going to see him take the brunt force of all of the carries and get that full start by week 3 or week 4. Thanks you. Take 2. Thank you. I'm just existing for asking your question. Lambo, cool name, by the way. What do you think Bo Nix stats will be this year? Me personally is 33 passing touchdowns, 4,200 yards, and 270 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns. Actually, I answered a question very similar to this last week on our mailbag. I said 4,000 yards. So just over 4,000 yards, probably 4,060. 33 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I'm going to stick with my claim. And by the way, can we just all take that in for a second? Those would be incredible numbers. I don't know if those are MVP candidate numbers, but they're up there for sure. Those are top 6 numbers in the NFL. Name a player. I don't think I can name 5 players off the top of my hand that had more than 30 touchdowns last year, passing touchdowns. So I think Bo Nix has the talent, the capability, and the understanding of this offense to really be a special, special player. So just over 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Rushing yards, it's a little bit harder to predict because Bo doesn't do a lot of designed runs. It's more of, take off when the play breaks down and use your legs to scramble to get a first down. So I can't really, prognosticate on that, but I'll stick with my original answer. Chris, can you rate your comfort level for our wide receiver room? With 10 being the most comfortable that I could potentially feel and 1 being I don't trust anybody. 6.5. 6.5 right now. As we get closer and closer to the season and we get OTAs and mandatory minicamp, I'm sure that number will go up, especially as we get more reports coming out. Excuse me. As of right now, I would say I'm slightly above average. I'm very optimistic that one of these players outside of Cortland Sutton will take the next step and become the solidified wide receiver 2. I don't know when that's going to be, though. Mister, going into the 2025 season, Susan, would you be disappointed with less than a top 5 defensive rating? Yes. Yeah. 100%. You don't go from being first in the NFL in sacks last year to anything less than top 5. Now, the only way that I would disagree with my statement that I just gave you would be if there were massive injuries, because you can't do anything about that. Like the Lions last year had a very good defense, but at one point were missing like 9 starters. Well, can you really blame them for that? It's just the way it fell. It's just the way it happened, and it sucks. But if all players are healthy, or the majority of players, I should say, are healthy, and we don't have a top 5 defensive rating, something went wrong. And then you have to start asking Vance Joseph, what the hell was the problem here? Top 10 is probably like the least that I would go. That's like the very bottom of what I'm predicting for this team, although with the top end being number 1 in the league. So anywhere in between that is fine. Thanks, mister, for asking your question. That's going to do it for us on today's mailbag edition of the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Remember, like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and send this to a Broncos fan in your life. Until next time, my name is Moose. Be cool.